Hello, 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 and welcome back to another edition of Fan Talk, your favorite podcast by your favorite fan. Of course, that is me, Kyle Brinchley, in the house on a Tuesday. The podcast is going up on a Tuesday. Yeah, a little different this week, just the way the cookie crumbles. Holiday season can get kind of crazy. So I had some time this afternoon on a Tuesday. I don't know. Maybe I'll still release it tomorrow, but I'm filming on a Tuesday. Just thought I'd be transparent with you. But welcome, guys. Welcome to Fan Talk. If you have not been here before, then take a seat. It's going to be a ride. This is a podcast you can find anywhere you get your podcasts. You know the drill, guys. Yeah, so let me know. All right, weather forecast. The air is clean. I can breathe. The sky is blue. Sometimes in the winter where I live, it gets really polluted. So it's always nice when it's a nice, clear day. No snow on the ground yet. Let me know if you've got snow yet for your Christmas. Christmas is always just a little bit better when there's snow on the ground. Speaking of Christmas, almost 2 weeks away. If I would have filmed this tomorrow on Wednesday, it would have been 2 weeks exactly. So pretty crazy. But anyways, we're having a good time this holiday season, and I'm glad you're here. Let's start off with let's shout out the Rogue One poster. Can't forget about that. That movie came out, December of 2016. So it's been 8 years since Rogue One has come out. Can you believe it? Have you seen the new show Skeleton Crew? I have not. Let me know if you like it down in the comments below. If I should check it out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it is a new Star Wars TV show on Disney Plus, starring Jude Law and a bunch of kids. So I don't know. Looks kind of fun, but I'm a little hesitant just due to the last couple shows that Star Wars has put out. Anyways, let's go into sports. This is not a Star Wars podcast, although it could be. Let's talk about college football first, and then we'll get to the NFL. Kind of just the same old, same old. So the college football playoff rankings brackets has dropped. It is official. The 12-team format is filled out and in tune to go through. So let's talk about the teams that got in. Of course, just a very quick reminder, 12 teams, and this is the format of how it goes. So the top 4 seeds get a first round bye. So essentially what it is the teams that won their conference. So for example, Oregon won the Big Ten, so they get a first round bye. They're the 1 seed. Georgia won the SEC. They get the 2 seed, a first round bye. Boise State won the Mountain West. They get the 3 seed. And Arizona State, number 4, won the Big 12. Which is kind of interesting because you look at Arizona State and you say, I don't know, they're probably maybe the weakest team, the least good team in this bracket. I don't know, maybe you can throw SMU in there or Clemson. Kind of interesting how that kind of works out. A lot of people are maybe saying, well, maybe we shouldn't have it be the automatic first round bye because, I mean, on paper, really, Arizona State is not better than, a Texas or Ohio State or a Tennessee who's playing a road game. But I mean, those are some wrinkles that will, have to be smoothed out in the future, depending on where the college football committee decides to go with this 12-team format. So far, I think it's cool. I like it. They're keeping all the big bowl games like the Fiesta Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl. Like those will be the quarterfinals and semifinals. And then the first round will be played at the home site of the top seed. So Texas, Clemson will be played in Austin. Ohio State, Tennessee played at the Horseshoe in Columbus. Penn State at Beaver Stadium, and Notre Dame, so forth. So here's what it is. Clemson, got in because they won the ACC, but did not get a first round bye because obviously there's only 4 spots. Because a Mountain West team was doing so well, that's probably why they got in. If Boise State was like a 8-4 Mountain West Conference champion, they would not, probably get the first round bye. They'd probably be the 12 seed. Regardless, Clemson gets in because they beat SMU in the ACC championship. Close game. I believe it was a field goal of 57 or 58 yards to kind of put them ahead and help them win that game. Texas, of course, lost in the SEC championship. They had a very good season, so they get the 5 seed. Tennessee, a very good season as well. They get the 9 seed. Ohio State, again, the Big Ten was kind of a bloodbath, because, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana, and Ohio State, you had 4 teams that were all pretty deserving, pretty up there. Some of them didn't play each other. So, I mean, I talked about this a couple episodes ago, that's something that the Big Ten's going to have to look at. There, you could very well go maybe not undefeated, but one, with one loss and then not make the conference championship because you didn't play this other team who went undefeated, but they didn't play as hard of a schedule. So all these, there's a lot of components to it, of course, as you may know. So just a lot of things looking forward into the future to see what they do there. But Penn State lost the Big Ten championships, but they still got in because they had a good record, good conference schedule, made it to the championship game. SMU, they're leaving SMU in there. They're rewarding SMU because SMU only lost one game all year, and that was to BYU until they lost to Clemson in the ACC championship. Now, SMU is a team that a lot of people were thinking they should have put maybe Alabama there, a BYU there, a Miami team there. Both BYU and Miami had 2 losses. Bama had 3-loss team. Bama, of course, I did my episode last week about the Bama bias. This time it is kind of funny. I guess someone watched it and said, oh, we're not going to do it because this random guy talked about it on his podcast. But of course, Bama, a 9-3 team, probably a stronger team, a team that the committee thinks can win games, more so than an SMU or a Boise State, a Clemson, maybe even an Indiana team. But they were left out. Miami was left out. A BYU team was left out. Obviously, I'm from Utah. A lot of my friends are BYU fans. They are really believing that BYU should have been there instead of an SMU, especially since BYU beat SMU. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they had the same record after SMU's loss to Clemson. But the committee rewarded SMU for making the ACC championship game where BYU failed to do so. And BYU also had a really bad loss to a 5-7 Kansas team at home. So, I mean, yeah, you got to take responsibility for that. And of course, Alabama had bad losses to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. So you got to take responsibility for that as well. And then Indiana and Notre Dame. I said it Notre Dame because, Notre Dame just got reopened. Notre Dame and Indiana. That should be a fun matchup as well. So initial thoughts right away from what we're seeing. I think there's going to be some good games, and I think there's going to be some maybe not so good games, kind of like in years past in the college football playoff where there's been the 4 teams. That one year that Cincinnati got in as the 4 seed, I don't know if you guys remember that. I think that was 2021. I believe it was the 2021 or 2022. I can't remember exactly, but Cincinnati snuck in there as the 4 seed and kind of got blown out of the water just because, I mean, they went undefeated. They had a great season, but, when they went up against, I believe it was Alabama. When they went up against Alabama, it was just too much. I don't know. I mean, I think Clemson will put up a good fight against Texas. I do think Texas will win. I think this will be a good game, Tennessee, Ohio State. This is a game I'm worried about, SMU and Penn State. I am a little worried that SMU might get a little blown out by Penn State. Same with, if Texas wins and they go on to play Arizona State. I'm a little worried about that matchup. This one I'm not too worried about. Boise State, obviously a very solid team, but they have a good draw. If they get SMU or Penn State, I think they're pretty good. If Boise was, I don't know, like the 4 seed or the 1 seed somehow, and they had to play like an Ohio State, a Tennessee, a Texas, maybe even a Notre Dame, then I would be a little concerned, but I think it should be good. And then, of course, Georgia, Carson Beck probably won't play. His elbow got kind of jacked up in the SEC. So, I mean, new quarterback could be interesting, if a Notre Dame or a very good high-octane offense like Indiana gets through. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are with the set bracket of the college football playoff. Tell me what teams you think got snubbed, which teams you think will do well, which matchups you're most looking forward to, and potentially who do you think will win it all on January 20th, the national championship. Of course, these games kick off December 20th, which is in 10 days, which is a Friday, not this Friday, but a week from Friday. And I believe the first one is Indiana and Notre Dame. So let me know what you guys think. And speaking of BYU, it, did make a bowl game, of course, the Alamo Bowl against Colorado, kind of the Big 12 championship that maybe the media and everyone wanted to see. So it was kind of destined when neither of those teams made it that they were going to play in this bowl. The Alamo Bowl should be a fun one, 7:30 on the 28th. Of course, Utah State did not qualify for a bowl. Oklahoma did. They're playing Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl. Cool, kind of whatever, but kind of a rough year for them. So, I mean, you can find the whole list of bowl games on ESPN, of course. Bowl games are kind of interesting because you may not know this, but in college football, the transfer portal opens a week before bowl games start. So a lot of people opt out of the bowl games and just look for new schools to transfer to. So it's kind of interesting. That might be something they need to change about the college football calendar, but we'll see moving forward. All right. Enough about college football. Let's shift our focuses over to the NFL and my pursuit in the NFL pick'em. I kind of had another bad week, 2 bad weeks in a row. I am now ranked 1,093. If you remember 2 weeks ago, I was ranked all the way up at 17. So I took a couple swings, a couple gambles, and it didn't work out for me. Ultimately, I went 9-4 this past week. I took a gamble on Arizona and Seattle. I originally picked Seattle, but then I switched to Arizona. So, that was a bad one. You can't blame me for this one. Most people pick Tennessee. Same with this one. Most people pick Buffalo. And then I took another swing on the Chicago Bears. So, really, if I went 11-2, I'd still be at pace. But regardless, you can't change the past. You can only focus on the future, which is the now. Week 15 of the NFL kicks off. Let's start off with Thursday Night Football on Prime. The Los Angeles Rams coming off a huge win against the Buffalo Bills, and probably one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting games of the year. Both offenses were just clicking, and it was incredible. Puka Nacua was on fire. Josh Allen scored 52 fantasy points. Ultimately, the Rams came up with a huge win. They're now really in the race for the NFC West. A big win against San Francisco this week could really, cement themselves in a tough race with Seattle, essentially. I am going to go with the Rams. The 49ers, kind of obliterated the Bears and outplayed the Bears. But I just think the Rams are playing really well right now. They got the 49ers earlier this year. So give me the Rams in this one. Chiefs at Browns. The Chiefs found a way to win. I didn't watch that Sunday night game. I was at a family party, but I watched highlights. And it just blows my mind that 4 weeks in a row that they've won on essentially the last play of the game. I don't know how they do it. I don't know, like you can't write it. It's almost like a movie, and it almost seems. To me, it seems like it's gotten so old. But the NFL's eating it up, so good for them. The Kansas City Chiefs, their 9th straight AFC West title. They're gonna go play the Browns. I'm gonna take the Chiefs in this one. Bengals at Titans. Titans just lost to the Jags, and the Bengals got a big win over the Cowboys. Statistically keeping their playoff hopes alive, even though it's not very likely, sitting at 5-8. Give me the Bengals in this one. Although as a Broncos fan, I'd prefer to see maybe the Titans pull out the upset. Commanders at Saints. I'm going to go with the Commanders in this one. The Commanders coming off a bye. Give some time for Jalen Daniels and Terry McLaurin and company to rest a little. Saints survived a very scary, not even scary, but just a wild game against the Giants. A very ugly, 14-11 win. But I like the Commanders in this one. The Saints are, thin at quarterback. Taysom Hill's out for the year. Derek Carr's got another injury. So Commanders all the way. Commanders all the way. Ravens at Giants. I'm going to go with the Ravens in this one. The Giants are in shambles right now. Cowboys at Panthers. I'm actually going to pick the Panthers this week. This might be my upset pick of the week. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me. I like the numbers. It's only 60-30, and it'll probably change a little more to 55-45 by the end of the week. Panthers played a very good game against the Eagles, but ultimately just couldn't stop Jalen Hurts again because their defense is literally the 32nd ranked in the entire league. But I like what I see from Bryce Young. He made some incredible throws. That game was on television in my area. So, that's the reason I watched it, is because I was able to see it a lot. Panthers look really good. Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb's kind of their only offensive piece right now. So as long as CeeDee Lamb doesn't go for 4 touchdowns, then the Panthers have a shot. So I'm going with the Panthers in this one. Here is the toilet bowl of this week. Both teams are eliminated from playoff contention. Both teams are 3-10. Both teams are really just not good, bottom of the league right now. I am going to go with the Jets in this one. The Jets probably would have beaten the Dolphins last week, bearing a Malik Washington 55-yard return by and under a minute left by the Dolphins to set up a field goal and then winning in overtime. So give me the Jets in this one. And if you're watching this game, I'm sorry. Dolphins at Texans. I'm going to go with the Texans in this one, mostly because they're at home. The Texans have slowed down a little bit in recent weeks. They're not the same team, obviously, as they were last year. CJ Stroud is taking a step back, a little sophomore slump there. And the Dolphins have won, three out of their last four. They're playing good right now. But I'm going to go with the Texans in this one solely because the Texans are at home. They just came off a bye, so look for C.J. Stroud to hopefully get the ball to, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon to have a big game against the Miami D. Colts and Broncos. Now, this is actually a very, very big game in the race for the wild card of the AFC. The Colts sitting at 6-7, the Broncos sitting at 8-5. On paper, you're like, oh, the Broncos will probably win this one. But, it is a must-win for Denver because after this, Denver has the Chargers on the road in LA, the Bengals on the road in Cincinnati, and then the Chiefs at home. So three tough games, three games they could very well lose. And so if they don't win this game and then they, lose those three, they go 8-9, they don't make the postseason. And then the Colts, if they, keep getting wins, they have a very cupcake schedule after this. They might sneak in there as the 7 seed. So, I think the nation, obviously me as a Broncos fan, would much rather see the Denver Broncos in the postseason than the Colts. I just think the Broncos are a better team. So let's hope the Broncos can get a win. I'm going to pick the Broncos in this one. This is probably the biggest game of their season so far. So give me the Broncos. Bills at Lions. This will be an awesome matchup. Bills coming off huge performance by Josh Allen. It wasn't enough. Their defense was torn apart by the Los Angeles Rams. They're going to face another very good offense in Detroit Lions and Jared Goff. This game is at home. It's in a dome. There won't be snow on the ground. Maybe if there was, then I'd give the advantage to Buffalo because, the Lions play in their little den. I'm going to go with the Lions in this one. Everybody's talking about the Kansas City Chiefs being 12-1. Let's talk about the Lions being 12-1. I think the Lions are a better team. Give me the Lions. Steelers at Eagles. Now, this is a very intriguing matchup. As you can see here, the pool of people are picking Philadelphia strongly. And Philadelphia is playing very well, but Jalen Hurts seems to be a little bit off. A.J. Brown says there's problems with the Eagles passing attack. Nick Sirianni's trying to stay optimistic and say, no. Jalen Hurts is looking like his 2022 self. Of course, that's the year that they went to the Super Bowl but lost to the Chiefs. The Eagles are at home. Steelers, tough defense. Russell Wilson's cooking over there in the Steel City. I'm going to go with the Steelers in this one to upset the Eagles. This might be a pick I regret, but I think it's a good pick. So if you're looking for, maybe some swings, then go ahead with the Steelers. As you can tell here, at this point, my pursuit of being in the top 100 or whatever, I'm kind of putting that aside, and I'm just going to go with what I feel. And what I feel is that the Cardinals are going to beat the Patriots. Enough said about that one. Buccaneers at Chargers. I was really hoping the Chargers could beat could beat the Chiefs this week. Now they're tied at the Broncos. Essentially, it'd be nice if the Chargers kept losing. So it'd be nice if the Buccaneers would win, but I do think the Chargers will win. They were missing Ladd McConkey in that game against the Chiefs. If they get him back, then the Chargers will be cooking bolt up. Packers at Seahawks. I'm going to go with the Packers in this one. Seahawks are playing very hot right now, but I think they're 5-1 on the road and 3-4 at home. So this is a home game for them. It is Sunday night. I'm going to go with the Packers in this one simply because the Seahawks are just, below 500 at home. Monday Night Football this week is a doubleheader. Woot, woot. At 6 o'clock on ABC, Vikings-Bears. I'm going to go with the Vikings in this one. The Bears are a mess. And then on ESPN at 6:30, Falcons at Raiders. Give me the Falcons in this one. They played a good first half against the Vikings, but just couldn't keep up with the firepower of Sam Darnold. Kirk Cousins is like, well, maybe I should have stayed here. But he'll have a nice bounce-back game against the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, so those are my picks for the week. That is week 15 there in the NFL. Thank you guys so much for listening to this edition of Fan Talk. This is a podcast, of course, you can find anywhere you get your podcast. We'll see you guys next week for another edition of Fan Talk. Enjoy the holiday season. Go out and serve. Go out and look outside of yourselves this holiday season. It should be great. All right, guys. See you next week for another edition of Fan Talk.